Shalom, my friends. Shalom to you. This is your old pal, Rabbi Sol Solomon, founder and spiritual leader of Temple Sons of Bitches in Great Neck, New York. And oh, you know I love music and musical people. And we're getting musical here on this Shabbos morning with a lovely, lovely lady who, let me tell you a little bit about her. She's been a singer really since childhood. She also spent many years as a makeup artist. She was a regular, and I know nothing about that because I'm constantly irregular, but she was a regular on the Joey Reynolds Jewish Hour on WOR Radio in New York. She is also a MAC Award winner for a cabaret benefit she did for Saint Jews. I don't know what you're doing helping saints out. I mean, we're both Jewish here. What the hell? By the way, you gotta unmute your microphone there. We're not hearing anything yet. So just do your microphone thing. Can you do this? Can you do it? Where's that?
There we go.
There we go. Hello. And let me tell you that in reviewing her, Stephen Mosher, the cabaret critic for Broadway World, wrote, and I quote, "Goldie DVER has a theatrical voice, rich and reedy, full of vibrato and technique, emotion and gravel, and overwhelming with life." Well, l'chaim to that life. Here, ladies and gentlemen, is Goldie DVER. Shalom, Goldie!
Shalom. Good morning. How are you, Rabbi?
Oh, you aches, pains, sciatica, bursitis.
Right.
But otherwise, I'm fine. How are you?
I'm Jewish after all. This this is very early in the day for me. I am quite nocturnal, but I'm so happy to join you today.
Well,
So
wait.
thank you
You
for
do
inviting me.
cabaret shows at 7, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night. How nocturnal can you be? What's the...
Well, first of all, yes, but then you come home, you socialize a little afterwards. You have to do the schmooze, the
Oh
grand
boy, you do.
schmooze
Yeah.
afterwards, and you come home and you're keyed up and wound up from the show. And I've always been nocturnal. So for me to get to bed at like 1, 2 a.m., that's good. And I usually get up around 9, 10. But to be alive and kicking and looking like a person, did I freeze? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's weird. Your audio is just fine. It's just that and let me, the visual here. We see you, and I'm a little tiny thing, so I need to do the thing here where everybody sees the thing.
Let me see if
Let's
I
do
can
gallery.
connect
That's better.
my, let me
Yeah.
see if I connect my landline, the thing. So, because I think I'll get a
What are you
better.
doing down there? But this is what I do before I go on the air. But
I know,
anywho,
but I didn't think, technology and I are not good friends. Um, so,
we're
but
old
this will take
school. We
two
we really are.
seconds.
We're.
This will take just two
We don't know from
seconds.
these newfangled things like AI or
Oh,
8-track tapes or air conditioning. It's too modern for us.
air conditioning, I'm good with. That one I've got licked. But AI, I have not even attempted to start with it yet.
You're gonna have to. It's gonna, there's gonna be, you're gonna go to a cabaret show. It'll be Don't Tell Mama, and there'll be a robot up there, and it'll be programmed to do Al Martino songs and Dean Martin and the Rodgers and Hammerstein songbook, and the audience will all be robots, and everybody else will be home sleeping.
Yes,
That'll be
how true.
cabaret in 10 years.
How true. Okay, plugged it in, but I
Yeah,
can't find. So let's just hope that this works well. It should. It should be okay.
yeah.
Okay,
You're not freezing now. You're fabulous.
good.
Great. The
Now,
background
why
is
am
is blurry. I don't know if it's my glasses.
no, I did that purposely.
Oh,
It-
good.
yes.
Just to drive
My
me a little
back,
crazy. Yeah.
yeah, it's not particularly special, and it's cleaner this way.
It
Yes.
is. It is. You look great, by the way.
Well,
Shalom to
thank
you.
you. See what a little
So,
makeup can do?
yeah, how did you get into doing makeup professionally?
Well, here's the thing. When you first start off in this business, and a lot of times through your career, you're not always earning money enough to support your lifestyle in your performance. So all of us take on different part-time jobs. I tried being a waitress for 6 months. Eh, I like being on the other side of the menu too much. My husband used to say to me that I was happiest when I was in a restaurant with the menu going, waiter, and and that's the truth. So, luckily, I had other skills that were developed, and I started off as a makeup artist as a part-time job, and that progressed through various phases. And I wound up, I don't know if you're aware of a makeup brand called Smashbox. It was out of LA from the Smashbox photo studios. Lovely, wonderful studio brand. Well, they came to the East Coast in 1997 and opened up first. The only place you could get them was Bendel's here in New York, Henri
Henri
Bendel,
Bendel.
Henri Bendel,
He
and
must have been
Nordstrom.
Jewish. Bendel, probably Jewish. I'm hoping. Yeah,
I think so. Yeah,
yeah,
Henry Bendel,
yeah.
um, um, and in Nordstrom down in King of Prussia. I was hired as a freelance makeup artist that very first week they opened that counter. And from there was then brought on board corporately by Dean and Davis Factor, the brothers who owned
Max.
Smash.
Oh,
Yeah, they were the
wait.
great
Factor from Max Factor. They
Yes,
okay, got it.
they were the
Yeah,
great grandsons of Max Factor. So
yeah.
they had the history and the heritage, but the brands themselves were not connected. They had again the Smashbox Photography Studio in LA was and still is one of the premier professional photography studios there. So this was developed as a studio line to be used in the studio and then went retail. And I basically built their clientele. I built the whole New York clientele from that counter at Bendel's and went on to run New York City for Smashbox for 21 years. Um,
So, who
I,
are some of the famous faces that you have applied goo to?
oh God, Cher, Goldie Hawn. By the way, Goldie is my next door neighbor here in New York. Yes, she has her New York apartment in the building right next door to mine. And so there are two Goldies on the block. She's
How
a
rare is
little
that?
bit famous.
Two Jewesses, but you know she's Jewish. Yeah.
Of course,
Yeah.
of course.
And Kate Hudson is Jewish too. This is an amazing thing. Have you seen her with Kurt? Have you done
We see
schmoozed?
them in the neighborhood every now and then. We see Kate more frequently. Again, this is their New York digs, so they're not here all the time.
Right,
But
right,
the
right.
funny thing is, when that building opened up, um, she owned the both of the two penthouses, and she was leasing one of them to oh, this is my brain, played Michael Corleone in The Godfather,
Shlomo Karlbach. No, wait,
of
no.
course.
Oh, you
Um,
mean Al Pacino?
Al Pacino, and we used to see him in the neighborhood all the time. And it was when he was in that custody battle with Beverly D'Angelo for the kids.
Right.
One summer afternoon, I'll never forget, my husband and I walked around the corner and we see him schlepping up the block, pushing this double stroller, and he was schwitzing like you wouldn't believe. And I remember thinking, well, you wanted the kids out. This is what it is to be a dad. But he no longer has that. I think she gave up one of the penthouses, but she still has the other penthouse. Um, and a friend of mine, I worked on her in Bendel's fairly often, but a friend of mine was her actual private makeup artist who used to work on her when she had special events and things like that. Um, I no longer do that in the stores at all. I'm retired from that part of my life, but I still have private clients whom I do private makeup
I'm
for.
sorry, I understand they want to look unbelievably glamorous. They know that they're walking down a red carpet, the light has to. But does a woman really need more than a couple of eyelashes, a little bit of whatever, a thin coating of lipstick, and you're done? What?
Oh, oh,
Really?
honey, I can tell you're a straight man. Oh,
Thank you. Yes,
yes,
I am.
yes. I mean, for every day, that's fine. And that's what I call my look like a person, brows, lashes, lips, just to find the high points of the
And
face.
tuchus. Tuchus.
Well, but
Yeah.
how many people actually see the tuchus?
My
Um,
family. Yeah. Okay.
and the people who do prefer it unadorned usually.
True.
Yes.
Good point. Yes.
Um, but when you're going out, and especially the thing about red carpet, you're dealing with different kinds of lighting, outdoor lighting, and then indoor lighting, and you're dealing with cameras. So TV cameras, still photography in the studio, they all require different types of makeup depending upon the lighting you're going to be seen in.
Right, but
Um,
you have an actress she does the red carpet, but then she's going into the ballroom and is going to
Right.
be sitting in the seat. So you've got the outdoor and then you've got the indoor. What? Does she change in between? Does she go to the bathroom with her stylist or what?
No, that's why you need the talents and the skill and the knowledge of a professional makeup artist who works in all of those mediums to understand what will work outdoors in sunlight and what will then translate. And if you notice when they are on the red carpet, they're never in direct sunlight. There's always canopy overhead, which creates a softer, sort of shaded, um,
Makes sense. Yeah,
diffused
I get
light.
it. Yeah.
Yes. And in general, a little tip for you in case you or your wife ever decide to explore warm colors in makeups, things like oranges, peaches, browns, warm tones will always be more will work in a wider variety of lighting situations than cooler tones. So things like if your shadow, warmer color lips, shadows that are in those warm tones rather than blues or purples, because cool tones can look harsher in different kinds of lights.
Now let me ask you. You
Yeah.
mentioned Gaga. Cher was in the chair. Do you have a Cher story? Was she nice? Was she? You can't really talk much because they're working on your face. Well, how was she?
She was Cher. She was delightful. Um, you know, I'm trying to think if there was ever an issue with any of the celebrities that came into because everyone came through Bendel's. And those are just the two that come to mind off the top of my head.
Sure, sure.
Everyone came through Bendel's. Um, and I don't remember having difficult situations with any of the celebrities. It was more the totally unknown women who sort of were, legends in their own mind, who they would sometimes be the difficult ones. But I was lucky because partly because of the way I worked with clients. Part of my thing was to educate them as I was doing it because I was always about empowerment. And I as I was doing it, the client would be looking in the mirror and I would say, we're doing this because I babbled a lot. Can you imagine me babbling?
Never occurred to me a Jewish woman
Yeah,
would. Yeah, but
yeah.
anywho. So,
So once I got somebody in my chair, they were my client for life. Yeah. So
but I wasn't also looking for dirt of people behaving badly. Were any of the celebrities that you remember or worked on, were they especially funny or nice or personable or any amusing things happen or?
again, I haven't worked in Bendel's. We pulled out of Bendel's in 2003,
Sure,
2004.
yeah.
So I haven't worked in that atmosphere in a long time. Our our brand became available in every Sephora in the country around the world, and they became all of my accounts. I was, and training all the people in Sephora. And you would get some people, well, because it's New York City, you would still get some people, but for the most part, those are the people that I started working on privately. And again, I'm sorry that no
Well, like
specific
legends,
story.
like Hollywood, from
Yes,
before 2003, Hollywood royalty legends, anybody, maybe
yeah. Well,
Margaret Hamilton, perhaps.
oh, Margaret Hamilton. Oh my God. How I toned down her nose was just beautiful. And your little down too.
Anyway, yeah, yeah. Esther
Yes.
Roll, did you ever do Esther Roll or no?
No, I did
No,
not.
no. Beatrice Arthur or any of the Golden Girls?
A B Arthur. Um,
If you can't be good, be Arthur. Yeah, no.
yeah, no, B Arthur though, I did not know her. But I met her a couple of times and she was B Arthur, the same B Arthur all the time, in person, on television. She was just that dry, acerbic.
Oh, you
Uh,
had that. You did it. You had that B. Arthur. You just impersonated her beautifully. That
well,
yes.
That's I have from time to time done songs that she did because I am in that character woman stage of life now, and I'll be honest with you, I love it much more than when I was the ingenue. The ingenue roles are so boring. The songs can be lovely, but the character roles are really the meaty roles where you can dig your teeth in.
So is there a Mama Rose in your future? Are you already doing those, or
You
because I
know,
see it, I can see you doing a Mame, a Mama Rose. That
Ma Mame is the role that people keep telling me I should do, and also Mame and
oh,
Ethel Merman.
oh
Again, this
Annie, no, the other one,
no, the other one,
Pearl Nesta in Hostess
Gypsy,
with a
Gypsy.
Joe, no, Mama Rose, Gypsy.
Right,
I guess,
right. Well,
yeah, yeah.
Gypsy, but I've been told I should do both of those roles. So we'll see, we'll see. But right now my focus has been on cabaret.
Yeah.
Um, because you have
Speaking of
so much.
which, yeah.
Yes.
So this Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. at Don't Tell Mama, except do tell Mama. There's no reason not. I don't understand the name of this thing.
Don't tell your mother.
You
I
should
do
tell
love
your
when you
mother. It's
call
a
that.
perfectly. This is not a naked cabaret. There's not people dancing and fisting each other. It's a cabaret. It's on West 46th Street, I believe. Don't tell Mama
Correct.
between 8
Restaurant
to 9.
row. Yes.
Right, and you're doing a cabaret called It Takes Two, cabaret duos and duets. So it's not just you. You are sort of hosting and emceeing all
Yes.
these couples doing songs, and some of these people have been on this program. So who are performing with you on Wednesday night?
Well, let me tell you about the concept of this series that I'm doing. The series is called um, uh, Sneak Peek. And it's a series that we're in our third year of doing it. And we do it every other month. Every month that we do it, every show has a different theme. And so we have done right before the Mac Awards, we had all of the artists, the composers who wrote the songs that were nominated for Macs for original songs. We had them all come on and perform their song live in the show. And that was so popular because they do send out MP3s of these songs so people can listen to them and vote to them. But there's nothing like seeing the person who wrote the song perform it live in a cabaret setting the way it was meant to be heard. So we've been having packed houses for these shows. The theme this time is duos and duets. These are all artists, cabaret artists, well known, who all work as solo performers, but very often we'll get together as an actual duet to perform. So there is, I don't know if you're familiar with Marty Millett and her husband Michael Garin.
Oh,
Again,
Michael has been on this program.
I
We're
know
trying to get Marty, but she's been busy. She's had something stuff in her
she's
life.
delightful.
Soon
She's
she will.
delightful.
Yes,
So
yes.
the two of them obviously work as singles, but they always work as a duet as well, a duo. So they will be on I know you know Meg Flather.
Yep.
Um
And get her on too. Yep.
just saw Meg's show on Wednesday, which was brilliant. And Tracy is her music director, Tracy Stark. And so again, solo performers, but they work together so much. We're inviting them on as a duo.
And what are some of the songs? What are the what are things that they are performing?
Well, that's the secret. You have to
Oh,
come to
ooh,
to the
ooh.
show to see.
I'm sorry
Um,
for asking. Shame,
but
shame, Rabbi, shame. Yeah,
I
no.
will spill the tea a little bit. When I saw Meg's show, she and Tracy did this duet from um uh starting here, starting now, called One Step. I want to take one step, one at a one step. And they did it brilliantly. So I made a special request that they do that for the duo show, which they will. The duos will be performing two songs each. The people like myself, I just did this Dorothy Field show, which I'll tell you a little more about later.
Yeah.
But in it, I do a few duets with my brilliant music director, Dan Pardo. Dan is the series music director for the Sneak Peek series. And he and I will be doing one of the duets from our show.
Oh, but
Dan,
wait, I do have to add. Just hearing
yeah.
that name, is Dan Pardo Don Pardo's son?
No, but
Yeah.
it's so funny.
Eh,
Everyone always makes that mistake. It's like, come on down. Yeah, so no, it's
yeah.
totally different entity.
All right.
But he and his wife Chrissy just won the Mac Award this year for Best Duo.
Oh my.
So yes, and this his wife can sing anything and a voice like the angels. And
Mm.
Dan is quite a singer and performer in his own right. Both sort of come from the world of theater. Um, but Dan is so busy now. He works with everyone. And I am very blessed to be able to have him. This is the Dorothy Show is the second show we've done together. And he's just creative and intelligent and uh, one of those brains that, you say something and he's so quick to put things. So my longtime director and friend and collaborator, James Beeman, who is my director, when we're in the room together in the collaboration phase of these shows, it's as much fun as actually getting up to do it on stage. So Dan and Chrissy will be on, and there's two singers who are wonderful, just becoming more known within the cabaret community, because I always like to have people that they're all excellent performers, but different levels of exposure
I
and
get it.
and
Yeah.
and recognition within the community. And Alex D'Souza and Richard Binder, who work together very often as a duo. They call themselves Binder Sues. And so they'll be on. Camille Diamond, who again, brilliant, brilliant, brilliant singer, works with Tracy as her music director. Camille and Tracy will be there as a duet. So Camille will do one of the duets from her last show with Tracy. And then as our special guests, we have Katie Sullivan and Mark Nadler.
Both of whom are friends of the neighborhood. They have been on this program. We love
And
them. Yeah.
just delightful. Again, brilliant performers in their own right. But when I first became aware of Katie and Mark, that it was years ago through Joey Reynolds. Um, and I first met both of them when they were working as a team. I didn't know until a little while later that and see them both as individual performers. But they are magical together as a team. Which is I always found so interesting because they are such different types of performers, but yet when they mesh together, it creates really something
Now, speaking of the
wonderful
mesh
fun.
thing, how did you get on the radar of Joey Reynolds, and how long ago was that? Because I think Dave met you actually when he was on late night one time with Joey Reynolds, and you were there, but just part. But that was post quote unquote Jewish hour and all that.
Okay.
How did that start on WOR?
Okay. Well, my husband, Paul DeVere, was a very unique man, talented, brilliant, a composer, a writer, very well versed in comedy, and worked with everyone. Worked with Jackie Mason, worked with um, uh,
Pat Cooper?
Pat Cooper. It's over. It's over. Yes, Pat Cooper, and worked for 30 years with Soupy Sales. And in his various things with Soupy, when Soupy brought his Soupy Sales show back in the early 80s, Paul wrote the theme song for that. Then Soupy had a radio show on WNBC
Hmm.
in the afternoons. It was like 83 to 85. And the lineup was Howard Stern in the morning, Soupy Sales in the mid-afternoon, and Joey Reynolds in afternoon drive time.
Wow. Yeah.
So through that, they became very friendly with Joey, and Joey, then, Joey is one of the first DJs that was inducted into the Hall of Fame, into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So he's been in the business since the early 60s. Do you remember, did you ever see Jersey Boys?
Of course. Yes.
Okay, well, the
Oh, you're talking about the
DJ,
Broadway musical and
the
New York
Broadway
Broadway musical.
musical.
I thought you were just talking Boys from Jersey. No, I've
Yeah,
never
yeah.
seen it. No,
Okay, well,
yes.
in the musical, they tell the story of how the Four Seasons first gained their initial notoriety, where the DJ played, I think it was Sherry, in a loop for 24 hours, and he basically locked the studio door to not let anybody in, and they wound up firing him for it. Well, that was Joey Reynolds who actually did that, and so he remained friends with
It's a
Frankie
good song.
DeVore.
It's not really worth 24 hours.
No, but
Maybe 3, 4 hours over and over. Yeah, there's other songs, Jerusalem of Gold. All right, that one I could do about 7, 8 straight hours of. A couple of
right.
songs by Wildman Fisher, maybe. But no, okay. Radio was nuts back then.
Right. So
Yeah.
Joey worked through many markets, and when he got to WOR, he did overnights from midnight to 5 a.m. And he had the only talk show that never took in phone calls. It was always about what went on in the studio. So by that time, we had all got to know Joey, and what had started to develop on Friday nights, what from 12 to 2 a.m., was something lovingly called the Jewish Hour. Now, as we know, observant Jews couldn't listen, which is probably why we got away with a lot of what we did. But when people used to ask me, like, what is the Jewish Hour about? I used to say, just picture your dysfunctional family sitting around the dinner table bitching. And that's pretty much what it was. So
Yes.
there were five of us that became regular dysfunctional family members.
Who
My,
are the others in that hour? There was
well, I'll tell you, you'll know. First of all, my husband Paul and I were like the young married couple who would banter. Then we had, does the name Mickey Freeman ring a bell?
yes, he used to be on with Joey. So yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Why do I know him otherwise?
Because he gained his fame as one of the original cast members of the original Phil Silvers show. He was, the short guy with the brush cut, Zimmerman, Zimmerman.
Right, you'll
He
never
was
get rich.
Zimmerman.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
And then he went on to become a very well-known Borscht Belt comedian. So he, whatever was going on in the studio, Mickey always had a story to go with it. I got a story for that, and he was just delightful. And he never told his age. We used to ride down with him every week to go to the studio. And he's so Mickey, give it up already. He would say, no, 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 no. It's like, how can you be worried at ageism? It's like you're older than dust. Just like, why do you care? And then
I
we
do
had our
remember when I would listen to the show many years later, and he was still there, and you kind of wait for him to get a story out, and you knew that
yes,
he was there just because he'd been there 20 years earlier, and he's still all right. Let's listen to Mickey for a while.
right, right.
He'll stop talking eventually, yeah,
Yes.
or he'll
And
start talking, yeah.
then we had a woman, Myra Channon,
Oh,
who
yes, Myra, we know. Well, I know
Mother
how she is.
Wonderful was her moniker.
Yeah.
Another Philly person. I'm originally from Philly, a Philly woman, who, when you talk to her, she sounded like your typical Jewish grandmother from Philadelphia. But let me tell you something. This woman was sharp as a
Yeah,
tack
yeah.
and wonderful sense of humor. And she wrote cookbooks, a very accomplished cook and baker. And then Sydney Meyer, who ran
Yes, of
and
course.
does still run Don't Tell Mama. I actually brought Sydney on to become the fifth dysfunctional family member.
We have
Because
to have the gay uncle, so there you go.
well, but Sydney, he used to when when Joey was on, he used to be in his office at Mama's late at night doing the books or whatever he had to do business wise, and he would listen to Joey. And Sydney and I'd hang out with him in his office, and he'd say, "Goldie, so tell me, when Paul, because my husband Paul's one of his roles on the show was to be the thorn in Joey's side." And Paul could do that with anyone without even breathing hard. So he would sort of get under Joey's skin and they would go at it in the studio about whatever. And I would, he would say, "Are they really arguing or are they doing it for the show?" And I would say it's a little bit of both. They are really genuinely having this, you can call it an argument, a discussion, but they know they're on a radio show. And so we would have these, and I would keep inviting Sydney, you should come on with me one night. You'll love it. Joey will love you. Finally, Sydney came on one night. Now, Sydney is the type of man, he doesn't say much, but when he does, it's gold. And that night, maybe three or four times, he made a comment about something. And of course, it was hysterical. And Joey, of course, loved him and invited him back. And within a month or so, Sydney was coming on every Friday night with us. And these Friday nights, are you familiar with Sarge's Deli? They're still here in New York City on Third
I don't think
Avenue.
they're kosher, so I
They're
wouldn't.
not kosher, but they are.
Oi,
Let me tell
oi.
you something. They are because I'm not kosher, but I love a good Jewish deli. Yeah. Oh, okay.
I mean,
Okay.
you wouldn't really get this. I could tell you get pastrami on it, but okay, fine, yeah.
They have the best Jewish deli food in New York for my money. And they would cater the Jewish hour every week. They'd send up this gigantic platter of every fish, the lox, the sable, the smoked salmon, da 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 da. They would send up another whole platter of all the meats, the pastrami, the corned beef, the salami, and all the accoutrement, all the bagels, the rye bread, seeded and unseeded, all the chopped liver, and all the
I'm gonna need my
everything,
talus to catch my
and
drool.
and
Oh,
even rugula. And so people used to come up and they would, everybody would feast. And Mickey was so funny. He would come up. We had to start hiding the trays from Mickey because he would come up and he'd bring baggies with him. And he'd fill up the baggies to take baggies. Oh, it's for my doorman. It's for my doorman. I give it to them when I go home.
well,
And he
if there was all that left over, let him have it. What's
God
the
bless him.
yeah,
Nobody cared. Everybody,
yeah.
and he did because we would take him home very often as well. And he did give at least part of it to the doorman. Mickey and his wife Anne were just lovable, wonderful people. We all became family. So we wound up doing this every Friday night for a good 14 years. And everyone came through that studio. Everyone from in cabaret, everyone from theater, because they wanted to join in on the party that was happening in the studio. But Joey's rule, you could promote your show, but it wasn't about that. It was about the discussion. Let's talk. Let's talk about whatever and have fun. And if you wanted to perform something from your show, you were not allowed to bring a recorded music that you had. You were allowed to bring a recorded track that you would sing to live,
Huh.
but it had to be done live in the studio. And they brought in this great electric keyboard so that people could also play live in the studio. And my husband, who was a brilliant pianist,
Right.
used to. So I
He was
would
actually a
bring
9-inch pianist, which I'm incredibly
you.
envious of.
How did you know that? I
Yeah.
thought that was my little secret.
We were in the men's room together one time, and
Oh, okay. Yes, he was a bit of a show off.
I went like, "Whoa!" So yeah. So let me ask. Speaking of singing and all of that, and live music and it said in your bio that you really started pretty early, knowing that you could sing and would sing. Well, when did you get that opportunity? When did you realize that would be your trajectory?
Well, it's interesting. And we tell a little bit of this story in this Dorothy Field show because some of the songs that I connected with as a little kid were Dorothy Field songs. My mother and I used to sing songs. She used to teach, she was teaching a 4-year-old torch ballads, okay? And it was sort of our special time together. And there's a picture on my website of me literally at 2.5 years old in my Dr. Denton's, standing on what was the landing of our steps, coming downstairs to the living room, like this, singing a song. So it was something I always loved doing and connected with. We used to spend summers down Atlantic City because I was born in South Philly. So Atlantic City was the natural summer. I grew up as a beach kid. My husband was a camp kid. I was a beach kid. And this was when Atlantic City was still the innocent family vacation town before it went into decline and the other stuff. And we were there for the whole summer. And at 6 years old, I was allowed to leave our place at the beach and go up on the boardwalk with myself to the arcades because I was a pinball nut. I was like looking over the pinball like this in order to play, but it was my
She's a
passion.
pinball wizard.
Yes.
Da-da-da-dum. Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So I was allowed to do that without my mother worrying somebody would abduct me or without her being pulled up on child
Or
abuse
maybe they just
charge.
didn't care. They were like, take her.
Yes, right.
She's 6. She's annoying the hell out of us. We'll look for her
Yeah,
eventually. Once
thank you
she's
for bringing
19,
that.
we'll check in.
And there was this right the next pier down from Steel Pier was a pier called Garden Pier. And they used to do free concerts and different things every night of the week. Wednesday nights was talent show night. And you were allowed, the deal was you went on Wednesday afternoon and you auditioned for Uncle Harry, who was a pro musician in one of the hotel bands. And Aunt Lucy was the MC. And if they felt you were good enough, they would say, okay, come back tonight, you'll be on the show. And I had been going to these concerts and I wanted to get up there and sing. So one afternoon, I took myself over without telling my mother because it was only a couple avenues down
Yeah.
from where I walked on the boardwalk, walked over there, and I auditioned with the Connie Francis song, I'll follow the boys wherever, with the tear and everything. And they said, yes, come back, you're on the show tonight. I went back to the beach and told my mother. She didn't believe me. She didn't think I would go by myself and take myself. And I kept saying, Ma, you have to get me, we have to leave the beach early because we have to eat. You have to dress me, and help me get ready. I'm going to do the show. I have to be there at 7. The show starts at 7:30. She just wouldn't believe me. Finally, and I was not a tantrum child. I just started like crying because so just to shut me up, she dressed me and brought me over there. Well, lo and behold, when she realized that I actually was doing it, she found the payphone and called back to the apartment and told the people, you have to come. She's really doing the show tonight. So I did, and that was my first, and the audience was like over 500 people, and it was packed every week. The kids sat in what was sort of on the boardwalk. It was very much like the band shell in Central Park.
Hmm.
Beautiful covered stage band shell, great acoustics and amplified, and but the audience was out in the open on the pier on benches, and it filled up every Wednesday night.
Were you
And
nervous or were you just excited?
both. That first time as a child, I was nervous. In fact, I could feel my kneecaps quivering. But I did it. I just because I loved it. And I did it again once towards the end of the season because the rule was you weren't allowed to do it 2 weeks in a row, except for the dance company in town that was there every week and did their thing and that but it was great. And did it again the next year, the same type of thing, twice in the summer. Then at 9, I started taking voice lessons back in Philly.
Yeah, okay.
So
So,
the next summer when I came back, my voice had developed and I had been performing in Philly in different talent shows and things in supper clubs, which my parents had to, of course, take me to. I would be there by the little light on the table doing my homework in between sets, you know.
and smoking Chesterfields, which was,
Of course. Well,
yeah, yeah.
Parliament was my brand,
Oh,
but
yeah.
um and so when I went back, Uncle Harry and Aunt Lucy said, "Well, we want you on every week, and we want you to sing 2 songs every week." And I would sing things like "My Yiddish Mama," and
Yes.
I mean, I would sing like an up-tempo thing every now and then, but my thing was torch ballads, and so that was my first real experience through that whole summer and first taste of sort of seasoning and performing in front of live audiences. And there's not, you have to do it to do it.
So you have
Um,
seen the evolution, moving away from Philly and moving away from Jersey of New York cabaret. I mean, you've seen it through the 80s and 90s. Where is it now? Because everybody thought it was kind of dying in the 2010s. And then, certainly through COVID, almost killed it completely. And yet now there's like a zillion little jazz clubs and little. Where is cabaret now?
what you're saying is correct. Cabaret has gone through different phases. When I first hit cabaret as an audience member in the late 70s, when I first moved to New York permanently, it was thriving. And you had people like Baby Jane Dexter and um, uh,
Julie
um,
Wilson was still around at
Julie
that.
Wilson,
Yeah.
yes. I mean, everyone just phenomenal. And then it did go through a bit of a decline in the late 80s, 90s, when dance music started becoming popular and the disco and all of that. Because just like theater, what was popular theater, what was popular cabaret was popular music of the day in the 60s and 70s, and then it all separated. And but um in and through COVID, everything stopped. I think that COVID in the long run turned out to be a very good thing for the cabaret community because it made us appreciate and realize what we had lost. And people were hungry to get back into a room together, hungry to share their art with people and that connection. And so when things started to open up again, like in the late 2020, some of the clubs opened up at varying degrees and people started to come back into the clubs. By 2021, 2022, things were really starting to pop again. And now I would say that cabaret is like fully thriving, which is a beautiful thing to see. All the clubs, everybody is doing shows all the time. It's difficult to get a date in certain clubs,
Oh,
especially if
I had
you
trouble
are.
getting dates all through my 20s, but then I met my darling and adorable, wonderful
Yeah,
wife, and
well,
Miriam
she
Libby.
sounded wonderful. I didn't get to see her in the
Oh
show,
no,
but
no,
she
that's
sounded
Dave's
lovely.
wife. You haven't met Miriam
Oh,
Libby.
I'm sorry, I haven't
She's
met your wife, and that's cute.
she's a
Sorry for interrupting.
termagant, but I love her. Yeah.
You are a hoot and a half, sir.
Thank
I
you.
love you.
Oh, speaking of
Yes,
Hooters, you went through the cancer thing, didn't you? You had
yes,
the Hooter
yes.
cancer. How did you come through that?
Well, thankfully, I'm here 20 years later to bitch about it. So
Yes.
any of the changes that have happened, body wise, life wise, they're trade-offs I can handle because I'm here. And I was running full steam. My mother died from breast cancer back in 1988. And so I had been getting mammograms regularly since that time, even though because of her history. And come around 2003, I was working full time with Smashbox. I was doing shows all the time in cabaret. So usually 2 to 3 nights after working at Bendel's or wherever, I would be rehearsing. Plus, I was singing with a wedding band that every weekend I was doing anywhere from 2 to 5 weddings through the weekend. And it was this, rinse, repeat, and wash. And so my
Yeah.
life was like insane. And I started feeling some sort of like a weird symptom. And it went away in a couple of weeks. And I was always told breast cancer doesn't hurt and breast cancer doesn't come and go symptoms. And so it went away. I thought, maybe I have like a
Cyst maybe or
lymph
something.
node or an
Yeah.
inflamed lymph node. And then it came back. And I thought, I should go have this checked out. I thought, I'm a little overdue for my mammogram. I thought it was like a year and a half since my last mammogram. I went back, had the mammogram. It had been 3 years since my last mammogram. So of course I was kicking myself. And it showed something. They took me immediately for like MRI biopsies. There was a positive mass, and that little thing I was feeling under my arm was also positive. So we knew going in. And I had all of my care at Memorial Sloan Kettering, who I mean, there are wonderful cancer centers around today that the care has advanced tremendously, but I still put my money on Sloan Kettering because they are in the forefront of research and education, and that's all they deal with. So my breast surgeon, that's all she did was breast surgeries and set me up with the whole team. So I had to go through that. And basically between the mastectomy, heavy duty chemo, lost all the hair everywhere. And the one thing,
Well, the curtains match the drapes. There's nothing on them. Yeah.
no curtains or drapes
Yeah.
anymore.
Oh God.
And it was like the body of a 7-year-old. And at one point it was like I thought, Paul is liking this a little too much. But again, my husband's sense of humor, when I came out of the mastectomy, this breast was normal with the nipple and everything. This
Oh,
breast had no nipple, and it had one horizontal scar.
sure.
And like one of the first times my husband saw me undressed, he looked at me, he went, Goldie, your breasts are winking at me. And he loved me no matter what.
Of
We
course.
had unconditional love between us. Again, so blessed. Everyone goes through crises and trials in their life, Rabbi.
Yes, I know. But I mean, by the way,
But
20 years, God willing, cancer free. Is that the?
yes, yes. But so it was mastectomy, chemo, heavy duty radiation.
Sure.
I basically left the earth for 9 months. When I came back, I had to go back to Smashbox first part, who, by the way, held my job for me all those months. Take as long as you need, Goldie. Your job is waiting for you when you're ready. They were good for the word, and they took such good care of me. I came back, and that was our health insurance. By the way, as I was recovering, my husband was diagnosed with early stage emphysema, and they found a dot on his kidney, diagnosed with kidney cancer. He had to have kidney sparing surgery. Again, Sloan Kettering on the forefront of kidney sparing surgery at the time,
Yeah.
January 2008. And but that was the first time he had ever had any surgery, had ever had to face his own mortality. He was the original Peter Pan. Somewhere in his brain, I think he thought he would never die. So it put him into a bit of a tailspin, which over the next 10 years, and he never stopped smoking. So the
Wow.
emphysema became, the last 3 years of his life were very difficult. But so during that time, I had to go back to Smashbox, and it took me a long time to gain back stamina and energy. I didn't have the energy or anything to be able to sing again. So I stopped singing totally for almost 12 years and like
So
pulled
what
away.
what made you suddenly realize, I can and I want to and I will?
Paul passed away August 22nd, 2018. Sudden heart attack in front of me. Had to give him CPR three times while I was waiting for the EMS to show up, and he just never regained consciousness that night. So it, that my friend Jamie was the one who encouraged me to come back to singing and to
James
keep going.
Beeman, is that
Jamie
the yeah,
Beeman,
yeah.
yes. And because Jamie and Paul knew each other and loved and respected each other through me, but they had their own loving relationship. And all I knew about the show, and I thought, yes, I need to do that. I knew that I wanted to do this show back at Don't Tell Mama, because even though I had worked so many of the rooms around town, Mama's was always my home. And Jamie and I had won a MAC award for the Leslie Brickis review that we did at Mama's, called Crazy World, back in 2002. And I wanted it to be at Mama's, and I wanted to call it Back in Mama's Arms. And beyond that, I knew generally what that I wanted to tell the story about, sort of what had been going on. Um, and Jamie, as we always do when we craft a show, we talk about what I feel I need to say. We talk about song selections that I'm feeling. We pull up a whole list of many more songs than we will ever use. And then as we start to build the arc of the show dramatically, we find and we realize which songs tell that story so well. And in the show is not about Paul, but he played heavily into the story. And we told this wonderful true story about when I first met Paul and hated him. It was like such a classic rom-com story. Um,
Why did you hate him? What was
okay. Okay. My
you
friend
gotta
Mark
tell,
Tiller.
gotta tell it. Yeah.
Okay. So there were four of us that moved up from Philly to New York to go to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. And even though I had a gay uncle in New York they weren't allowed to legally be married at that time, but it was always Uncle, Uncle AB and Uncle Paul. Uncle AB was the blood relative. And it was so typical. They had a upscale hair salon in the salon. They were Andre and Pierre. I mean, and they had this upscale Jewish clientele of these women. But he was my favorite
La
man.
Caja Farfel is essentially
Yes.
what. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, perfect. So even though I was aware of this, I still wasn't like we were accepting of, we didn't know we knew what homosexuality was, but not really. When I moved to New York, it seemed like every talented man I met was gay. So my friend Mark kept trying to introduce me to Paul, not romantically, musically, because Paul wrote all these original songs. He was in the original BMI workshop with
Oh,
Lehman Engel when Lehman Engel ran the workshop.
wow. Okay.
And so he felt Paul would like me singing his songs. I would love his songs. So finally, and I'm thinking to myself, all right, I'll meet another gay friend, whatever. One day I had nothing to do. It's like, all right, let's go meet your friend Paul. We go up to Paul's apartment. Paul opens the door. I took one look at him. I knew this was not a gay man. No self-respecting gay man would ever walk around looking like that. He was like Oscar Madison from The Odd Couple, but worse. Bushy hair, uncontrolled, like mismatched clothing. Like the man didn't own a mirror and couldn't care less. And he was working with Soupy at the time, and he had just come off of a road trip with Soupy, was spending like 2 days, 3 days in his apartment, and then going out on another 2 week road trip. Now, Paul was a very hyper New York character to begin with, but he was also so sexist, so that he thought I was Mark's girlfriend. So I was, let me put this in a nice way, undateable material. So he totally ignored me,
Oh,
like I wasn't even there. Here was this brash New Yorker there, like and just ignoring me. And then the capper, he brought out, he said, Mark, I have to show you something. He brought out this jewelry box and opened up this thing. And at the time, what was very big were these bangle bracelets for women, hard bangle bracelets that when you pulled it this way, there was a watch underneath.
oh,
Now, I wasn't a big fan of them anyway, but this one, he opened up and he went, I gotta show you, this is the most expensive gift I've ever bought for a woman. A woman. He was 21 years old, a woman. And he opens it up, and I'm thinking to myself, that's the most expensive gift you've ever bought for a woman. Boy, do you need some education. And and I never heard a note of music. So when we left the apartment that day, I told Mark, I don't ever need to see your friend Paul again. But when Paul came back, he was going to be doing a 2 week stint at one of the cabaret rooms where he was going to be playing piano, and each night he was going to have a different friend at various levels of celebrity at that point. He had Christine Ebersol before she hit it big. He had Larry Luckenbill. He had ton. I'm just again blanking out on the names. Those are the first two. But Mark was supposed to be his opening night singer, and he wanted me to come see him do this show. Said, all right. Well, Mark had laryngitis that night, couldn't sing a note, and Paul had a room full of people. So he performed, he played and performed his own original songs. And he was not a singer per se, but he was an actor and Paul lived his best life on stage. He was so comfortable and wonderful. And so he's doing this, and all of a sudden I see this sensitivity and vulnerability and talent. And I was always a sucker for talent. And by then he knew I was only Mark's friend. So now he was interested in me. So he comes over to my table at the end of the show. He says, would you mind hanging out? I just have to, he had to do the schmooze around the room. And I said, sure. So he did, and he came over to the table. Well, we just bantered they wound up kicking us out at 3 a.m. that night. And we connected. And um, when we got outside, he pulled a Woody Allen on me. It was the time of Annie Hall.
what, you look for a 10-year-old? No, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
No, you know when Woody Allen says to Annie Hall, something like, before their first date,
Oh,
do
the
you mind if I
kiss
kiss
thing,
you
kiss before
now?
the, yeah,
Right,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
right. So Paul pulled that on me, and he looked at me, and I just looked at him, and I went, "Oh, you saw that movie too?" You know, so
Every Jewish man wanted to be Woody Allen in the 90s. See, it sounds ridiculous now, but we all did. We thought,
yes.
oh, he's got it.
So,
That's how you get girls.
so that was May 10th, 1977, and we always looked at that as our first date. And then we actually got married May 6th, 1984. So between the 7 years that we were together before the marriage and then the marriage, we were together for 41 years. And again, went through things in my life, but I know how blessed I was to have had that man and that relationship in my life. Through the ups and downs, I would never trade any of it for what we had together. We always had unconditional love, unconditional trust, because both of us traveled a lot, especially through like the first 15 years of our relationship. And people used to say to me, how do you sure that you can trust me? I said, I know. And he knew, because both of us had many opportunities. but we also
Well,
knew.
the way you described him when you first met him, I don't know how many opportunities he had. You probably did,
Oh,
but yeah.
I worked on him. I cleaned him up quite a bit.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah,
Because
yeah.
he had a great face. He was really quite a handsome man. He just it was you had to find it under all that stuff. Um, so and his charm, he was such a charmer. I remember his mother saying to me early on, be careful because he can charm the birds out of the trees. And he could. And that's why he did so well as a producer, both for Joey and Mark Simone, who now,
Yeah.
right. Well, he worked with Mark Simone for 30 years through all the markets that Mark Simone was on, WMCA, WNEW, the Make Believe Ballroom, um, and and um, and Paul would work as a producer behind the scenes and booking talent for on-air interviews with.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And through this, Paul had a way, he was able to get to anyone, either through their press agent or whatever. And once he got you on the phone, he was persistent but charming. He could get you to say yes to just about anything. And what often happened after the first connection with these people, they would say, "Oh, call back," and they would say, "Don't go through the press agent. Call me direct. Here's my number." So he developed phone friendships. Two in particular, Ella Fitzgerald and he would be on the phone for hours. And I would hear him, sometimes he'd put it on speakerphone. And I would hear his conversations with Ella because Paul was he had that encyclopedic brain about anything showbiz. And he would not talk to them as a fan. He would talk to them as a professional in the industry, but someone who obviously loved their work. And I remember one time he said to Ella, he was talking about a certain cut on an album. And I remember her saying, "Honey child, are you sure I did? I don't remember. I've got to go back and look at that."
And then you suddenly heard clump, clump, clump of her going through a cabinet because she had one
Oh
leg
my
in it.
God.
Yeah,
So the last two tours that she did in her life were 2 years apart. One was for her 74th birthday, and then the last one was just like her last tour.
yeah,
And the first one was done, I believe, at Carnegie Hall. And she invited Paul and me to come to the show. She gave us her house seats and backstage passes. She wanted to meet Paul. So we went, fabulous concert, of course. And Ella, I love and respect and admire so many wonderful singers. I grew up as a Judy Garland fan, and
well, you
uh,
might be a gay man then. It didn't
I
occur to me,
somewhere
but
deep
yeah,
inside, absolutely. So and I love Streisand, but she came to me later. But Ella, whom really came to me more in my 30s when I started to appreciate jazz. Ella for me was the only singer that I sort of put up on a pedestal because it was that beautiful crystal clear instrument, her musicianship, her taste level. When she scattered, it wasn't how many ways can I bend this note? It was musicianship just brilliantly and everything. So she's one of the few singers that I can listen to like over and over again and through a whole album and through everything. I tend to get bored listening to the same singer even through a whole album. She
yeah,
wasn't.
yeah. Absolute 45 minutes with the
Oh
same
my God.
voice, the same
Right.
arrangements it gets. Yeah,
Not Ella. So here we are, and we go backstage. We're in the green room with everyone, and there was Peter Allen and Tony Bennett and everybody there. And we're there with and she came over and spent 5 minutes or so chatting with us as she made her way through. Great. I'm on cloud nine. 2 years later, she's back now for this last tour that she did in her life. Um, and it's at Radio City. Same thing, inviting us, house seats, stage passes. This time when we go backstage to meet her, one of her people came over to Paul and asked if we would mind hanging out because Ella wanted to speak with us, with Paul, but with us. And of course, what are you going to say? No. So we waited and they wound up clearing her dressing room so that we could go in there. And we were with her for 20 minutes or so, maybe more. And she was still at her dressing table. And I was literally kneeling on the rug next to her. She was like Grandma Ella. I was practically sitting in her lap. And she was asking me about my work. And she was just amazing. And I'm not an autograph seeker. But with her, I asked her to sign my program. She wrote a
Yes.
lovely thing on it. And I came home that night and I had this 8 by 10 frame, took the picture out of the frame. And in the frame, I opened up the program to where she signed it, put the backstage passes and our tickets. And that is still sitting framed on the wall in my living room. And,
Meanwhile, your niece's picture is now in the garbage somewhere.
you know,
Who needs that? Yeah. Now
it's
that you mentioned there are two people, I think I know who the other person was that
okay.
Paul got really, really close to, or maybe this is the one that you did. I'll take the guess. It's Anthony Newley.
Yes. And
Yeah.
again, that was through Paul. Now, Paul was a huge fan of Newley, both as a performer and as a writer. You're familiar with the two major shows that he and Brickus wrote in the
Stop
60s.
the world. I want to go somewhere else. I don't like the
Right,
world. I hate the world. The world sucks.
right.
And then the roar of the grease paint, the smell of my farts. I think those were the
Ding,
two.
ding,
Yeah.
ding. So
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Um, and then Newley went on to really be like the performer, doing Vegas, and he wasn't in the Rat Pack, but during that whole Rat Pack era. And he married Joan Collins. They were like a Hollywood it couple for 10 years, had 2 kids, and really was a player a lot of his life, but open about it. And Joan Collins, they knew,
They knew. Yeah.
and yeah. So this was late 80s, 89, 90. Paul again started the friendship with him through via a phone interview to have him on as a guest. And they hit it off so deeply because they connected as writers. And again, Paul adored Newley, but spoke to him as another professional. So and Newley, by that time in his life, he had lived a life, both personally and professionally, and he had really come to be this whole human being.
Hmm.
He was interested in not his own self-promotion, but the world and humanity. And so we started this friendship, and I would sometimes join in on the phone calls. So I started becoming friendly with Newley, but the friendship started and the bond was created from Paul.
Now, I do want to ask about Anthony Newley. One of the stories about him was that Rex Harrison abused him terribly when he was doing Dr. Dolittle. Did he tell any stories about Rex and that era?
It's true.
And
That
Rex
was
being kind of anti-Semitic about it too, not to mention, but yeah.
well, we touched on that because of course Newley was Jewish. And we touched on that, but he did tell some stories about Dr. Dolittle. And yes, so a lot of what you heard about that was true. Harrison apparently was not a very nice person.
Uh,
Um, yeah, but he was an amazing performer, so whatever. You know, I usually can separate the performer from the person. If I like their work, I don't have to have lunch with them. I don't have to socialize with them, but I can appreciate and love what they do as an artist. Unless if they become really overt.
Richard Wagner, I can't really get through Lohengrin.
Right,
And it's
exactly.
nothing to do with the Jewishness. I just can't get through fucking Lohengrin. But anywho, yes.
So, Newly, we developed a true friendship, personal notes back and forth. In fact, Newly and Paul started writing a musical adaptation of Frankenstein.
Hmm.
Yes, which they never got to finish because Newly died. Now, I had mentioned that my mother died of breast cancer in 88.
Yeah,
My father was diagnosed with kidney cancer. They were both diagnosed within 6 weeks of each other in 86. My mother died in 88. My father died in 92 of his kidney cancer.
yeah.
20 years later, I'm diagnosed with breast cancer. My husband's diagnosed with kidney cancer, but both of us survive our cancers. Cancer is not what killed Paul. So, 20 years of advanced medicine, 20 years of everything. And the
Look,
blessing
Hashem.
of
Yeah, yeah. It
so
wasn't your times, right?
and I am a very spiritual person. I believe in the higher force, which I choose to call God because that's how I was raised. And I am a very proud Jew and love my religion and love the customs of my religion. Um, and so here we are, getting to know Newly very well. And Newly had been a kidney cancer survivor. He had had kidney cancer 11 years earlier and was totally like in remission, cured, whatever. And I mean, things with Newley. So I was not a Newley fan growing up because my family were not theater people. My exposure to nightclub to um show business was nightclubs. And my exposure to musicals was always the movie musical version.
Right.
I didn't really see live theater until I was involved in live theater in high school, but I moved to New York and that's when I really first learned about theater. So I never saw Newley live. I only saw him in these variety shows on TV.
Or bad movies like Dr. Dolittle, which was a musical,
Oh,
but
I love Dr. Dolittle. I
oh,
did. I love that movie musical. And but he had this very heavy accent and the vibrato and the style. I just never took to him on TV. Well, as we got to know him, he invited us. He was doing Rainbow and Stars, and he invited us to come see him. And seeing him live, the magic that he created on stage just mesmerized me. And I was immediately hooked. And I was just entranced. And from that moment on, I was a huge fan of his work and started to. So we would go see him, and when he was doing Atlantic City, um, he invited us down to see him. He was there for the weekend, and he wouldn't let us get a hotel room. He had to stay in the other bedroom of
oh.
his suite, which was cool because after the show at night, we'd sit around and we all get comfy in our, comfies in our robes, and we'd sit around and just shoot the shit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And during one of these, and we would get into these heavy discussions about, like I said, about the world and humanity and this and that. And after one of these discussions, I turned to him and I said, Tony, I have to tell you how wonderful it is having, getting to know you this way and getting to see you with your soul and your true heart. And he looked at me and he said, Goldie, you're lucky. Goldie, darling, you're lucky you got to know me now because when I was younger, I was a real shit. And he
And
was
he knew it, and he accepted it, and he
totally honest.
changed. Yes.
Changed. And I'm glad that we got to know him it was 9, 10 years, the last decade
And
of his.
did that lead to your like Leslie Bricusse show? Because
Yeah.
yeah, I figured.
He died in 99. And Jamie, who had been directing me, um, through things, when I came back to Cabaret again in 2019, did that first show. And then we did a second show called Bridges, which had to do with me as a young person having experienced in the 60s all the political things, war and political unrest and race problems and da, 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 but more as an observer because I was like just becoming of age at 13 or so. And 50 years later, having lived a life, going through all the same things in our society again, but taking steps back. This was right after Roe v. Wade was reversed. And so it was all about the similarities and the juxtaposition and the differences, bridges from that time to this time. We did that show very successfully.
But
And
I never understood the whole Roe v. Wade controversy. If you're still in the boat, row. If they've thrown you out of the boat, you wade. Simple. Why?
only
I never
you,
understood why there's a big controversy. I don't understand.
only you could come up with that. I love it.
Thank you.
Um, so then I was looking for my next show and I was thinking about Newley a lot. He had been gone at this point. I came back in 2019. He'd been gone 20 years, 21, 22 years at this point.
Yeah.
And I wanted to focus on him and telling the story of this friendship that we had. And of course, using the Newley Brickus catalog to do it with. And so again, Jamie and I collaborated. We knew what we wanted the thread and the show and the import of the show to be, and did the same process and developed this show called um
So, Brick by Brickus? No, what was it called? It was
that was the Crazy World Show. See what my brain does to me. I,
it's post-COVID brain fog. Well, it's
yes,
something
yes.
about that. I can look it up. Everybody can go to her
Just see
website.
work of
Yeah.
Anthony And so we did this show, very successful run in New York, wonderful reviews, nominated for a Mac Award for Best Tribute Show. And we took the show over to London to Crazy Coq's and had a wonderful, wonderful audience there. There is actually an Anthony Newley Society in London. And we hooked into them through two people who wound up seeing stuff that I did on Facebook, connected with me, and they were like Newley nuts. I call them the Newley boys. And Brad and his husband. And so they really helped us connect with people there. We had a full house, did a wonderful show, getting great reviews, and my first time in London. So it was a wonderful experience.
Oh, yay.
And
Oh, now,
this,
we want to get back to what you're doing currently because we have to remind people that this Wednesday evening at 7 o'clock, July 15th, it takes two
right.
cabaret duos with all these wonderful people that you mentioned, and you singing, and also with James Beeman, and you're kind of hosting the whole thing. It's
And
a,
may I,
yeah,
go ahead. I don't want to interrupt, but may I say one of the unique things about Sneak Peek and the reason we call
okay,
it that,
yeah.
after each person performs or before whatever, I go up and have like an informal, maybe 5 minute chat with them about something about their creative process. We give the audience a peek behind the curtain into what that takes. And it's different for everyone, and it's not the same questions for everyone. And people who come to these shows love those moments in the show as much as the performances themselves, because they don't get to hear this information usually.
Oh,
This is
that's lovely. Yeah,
like
no, it's a lovely balance of it. Because one of the things you say about you can't listen to a full record album, but look at me using the word record album. But yeah, you can't go through 45 minutes of it. But if you break it up with conversation and then song and conversation, then it really becomes a fuller evening. Plus, as you say, you've got Katie Sullivan, Mark Nadler, very quickly name
Lather,
Rick
Camille
Lather,
Diamond,
Marty Millett.
Marty Millett, um, Alex D'Souza. I feel like I'm
The
leaving.
young people, the two younger folks, the guys.
Oh, Justin Dylan Nastro, who is a wonderful performance. He's newer on the scene, but at this point, very well known within cabaret. And he winner of Mac Awards as well. He and Jamie, because Jamie Beeman this summer did Mushnik in Little Shop of Horrors in at the Fort Myers Theater in Florida. And Justin has done the role of Seymour. So they are doing the Seymour Mushnik duet from Little Shop as well.
Got
So
it.
they'll be on the show. It's just going to be such a delightful evening.
Don't Tell Mama, which is over on between 8th and 9th on West 46th Street on Restaurant Row.
Correct?
But we also want to let people know that you have a CD that people can get. It's called Sweet Beginnings. Is
Yeah.
that on all the usual?
Not at this point. There's some issues
Oh,
it's won't go into, but it's available on my website, and people can even go on my website and stream it if they wish and just listen to the whole album. And that is something that actually was the studio version of the Back in Mama's Arms show.
nice,
I
nice.
wanted to because I had never done a CD, and we did it, and we were able to do things in arrangements with horns and this and that I kept hearing in my head, but you can't do in a cabaret room. You can't afford it. There's not enough room on the stage, and it doesn't warrant it. So
I mean, I
it's
would have bagpipes for my sermons, and it just yeah didn't
yes, but
yeah.
bagpipes, it works good for the Yiddish songs and because of the minor keys and all of that. But yes, so that at 68, I put out my first CD. And it's like, why not?
Why
My
not?
motto
Yeah.
in life has become, if not now, when? And I'm blessed again that I wake up every day and I have a passion and something that I'm good at and something that people are loving and accepting and welcoming me. And it keeps growing and growing as I build my goals, as I'm now back in cabaret we've
So that is going to be the last question for Goldie DeVere. And by the way, it's Goldie with an IE like Horn, like your neighbor, and Dveer, DVER. There should be a missing vowel in there. I don't know what the hell.
Oh, people are always wanting to give me extra vowels and apostrophes.
You can
It,
buy a vowel. You can do
it-
that from Chuck Woolery, but it's DV. Did anybody even remember Chuck? DVER.
correct,
GoldieDVER.com is the website. But
correct.
that brings us to what you're alluding to. Like, okay, so you've got this show on Wednesday.
Right.
What's in the hopper,
Okay.
cabaret wise or music
Uh,
wise?
So it's a busy year. Um, in September, we come back to the Laurie Beachman Theater, which is 42nd and Ninth, beautiful room downstairs from the West Bank Cafe. Um, and we're bringing back our second performance of our Dorothy Fields show. Now, Dorothy Fields, I did not know personally at all. But again, I had these connections with her songs long before I even knew who songwriters were. It was the songs and the role they played in my life that as we started to do a deep dive into Dorothy too, I found that I connected with her, who she was as a woman. Dorothy Fields had a 50-year career that started in the 20s when she wrote with Jimmy McHugh songs like On the Sunny Side of the Street. God, I again blanking out, but she wrote with 16 different composers, including Harold Arlen and um, Jerome Kern. She had the most long-term special relationship and working relationship with his whole family too, became very close. She wrote with him I'll Take Romance. No, a Fine Romance, a Fine Romance. I Won't Dance. The song that they won Best Original Song Academy Award for in 1936, the Frank Sinatra hit, The Way You Look Tonight.
Yeah,
Someday when I'm up, right? She was the first woman to win that Oscar. She had an amazing career. She wrote Sweet Charity and Seesaw with Cy Coleman.
that's right. Yes.
Those were two of her last projects. So we go through her. It's this song, it's a fine distinction that a lot of people won't even make. I don't look at this as a tribute show. I look at this more as a songbook show. We tell enough about Dorothy and her to give people a good idea of who she was and what she did, but it's more about why I connected with these songs and the role they played in my life. And and again, I'm working with Dan Pardo as my music director. Jamie Beeman is my director and collaborator. And John Miller, very well-known bassist here in New York, is my bassist. And Chip Fabrizi is my drummer. Great trio, great arrangements of these songs. And it's really I love doing this show. It's so much fun. We had an overflowing sold out show when our first performance in June that we did it at the Beachman.
So it's
So
coming back to the Laurie Beachman Theater
yes,
in September.
September
So
17th. Sep-
17.
17th at the Laurie Beachman Theater. And it's already up on the calendar if people would like to go make reservations. With Don't Tell Mama, by the way, reservations are strongly suggested for this show. However, their website is being overhauled. So when you click on their website, you'll see a note that just says it gives a phone number and an email to contact Tanya Moberly directly. She'll
Yeah.
take care of the reservations. It's not difficult to do. It's just one extra step, but I just want to give people a heads up. But you don't have to buy a ticket in advance at Mama's. You pay your cover charge when you pay your check at the end of the show, but you do need to make a reservation. So
Because it's nearly, because you've got so many wonderful people, including yourself, appearing this Wednesday night at Don't Tell Mama in the show It Takes Two. And boy, oh boy, what a twosome we have become. You are
oh
now
my
a
God.
what a great friend of the new friend of the neighborhood that you are. And to me, Goldie DeVere, I wish you God knows health and happy things and music and cabaret and all the things that you want, as you said, in the what the hell stage of life. In the like, why
Absolutely.
not do it? You know?
Absolutely. And again, so blessed in this lifetime. Um, I every day you wake up to bitch about something, it's a good day. So
That's what I say, damn
and
it.
you tell I'm Jewish. Oh my God. I can't tell you, Rabbi, and please let Dave know as well. This has been delightful, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart for inviting me to join you today.
From the bottom of my liver, my kidney, my bowels, all of them, thanking Goldie Dveer for being such a wonderful delight and spending this Jewish hour with us.
Absolutely.
Shalom, Goldie. Thank you.
Shalom. Mwah.